Hi, I'm Craig Wilson at techcentral.co.za, and today I'm looking at the Olympus XZ-1. And the XZ-1 is a sort of high-end enthusiast compact, which means it's got a little bit more control and you can get a little bit more stuck in and customize options. It also means, of course, that it comes with a bigger price tag, but this one's quite notable for a number of reasons. Firstly, if we look at it, as you can see, it's a fairly compact form factor. One of the notable additions that sort of demarcates that this is a slightly higher end device is the hot shoe on top. Now, it's got a little cover on it, but if we take that off, you'll see aside from being a regular hot shoe that can support an additional flash, there's a little slot at the back here, and that's for fitting some of the other attachments that Olympus offers as optional extras. And one of those includes an electronic viewfinder. It's much like a traditional viewfinder, except that it feeds the information that would be going to the rear LCD screen into a tiny screen in a block on top here. Anyway, the support for an external flash is always nice. Of course, it does also have an internal flash that pops up quite violently over here. And while it looks rather small, perhaps the most impressive thing about this flash and this camera in general is that for the serious photographer, there's the option to wirelessly trigger additional flashes using this onboard flash. Essentially how it works is your other flashes are put into slave mode, and this one triggers a small pulse just before it actually wants the flashes to go off, and then the additional flashes are triggered wirelessly. And that's a feature you almost never see in a camera in this sort of form factor, and it's pretty much limited to SLRs, and even then only the high-end models. A lot of entry levels don't even offer that. In terms of controls, if we have a look at the top here, you've got your regular power button, the shutter release, and your zoom for wide and tight. There's also a control here that, while it includes an auto setting, which will please a lot of people, also gives you a lot of control. As you can see, there's a program mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, that's a full manual, and that's the equivalent of bulb. And then that little one there, these are obviously your creative scene modes, but this little one which looks like a candlelight is the low light option. And the reason that's important is, firstly, this camera has an incredibly fast lens, and secondly, it handles high ISO surprisingly well, and that's in part due to its enlarged sensor. It's not quite the size of a DSLR sensor, but it's bigger than the normal ones you find in compact cameras. In terms of control, another really nice feature, aside from the fact that it's very holdable and there's a pleasing sort of tactile rubber grip here, is there's a dedicated video button. And this means you don't have to worry about messing around with the top control switch when you want to shoot video. You can just hit that button on the fly and hit it again to stop. The other thing that means, of course, is that it's a lot more stable. So you're less liable to have those shakes and jitters that you generally have at the beginning and end of video recordings. This is a fairly standard layout here in terms of the four-way controller, with adjustments for things like exposure compensation, autofocus mode, drive mode, and flash. But what's interesting is, aside from being able to click these up and down, it also rotates, which means it's very easy to jog through various settings and alter them on the fly. Turning then to the actual lens that Olympus has supplied, if we put it on, the lens provides a equivalent 35mm equivalent zoom range of 28mm to 112mm, which is about what you'd call a 4 times optical zoom. But the most interesting thing about it, and something that Olympus have wanted to bring your attention to by putting it right on the corner of the device and making it clear, is that this is an incredibly fast aperture lens. At its widest end, it opens up all the way to f1.8, which is very unusual in a compact at all, and even its nearest rivals can only manage about f2. More impressively, once you zoom, it only drops down to 2.5 when you're fully zoomed, and that's still really, really fast for a camera of this sort of caliber. Another interesting addition from Olympus is this control ring that you can see surrounding the lens. And this does different things in different modes. Generally, it operates what the mode sort of suggests by name. So in aperture priority, turning this will allow you to change the aperture. In shutter priority, it controls the shutter. And in program mode, it alters the ISO. You can also customize it for some of the scene modes to change settings that you find you fiddle with often. But it's a particularly nice feature, firstly because it returns to the traditional sort of two-handed operation that is part of photographic history, but it also makes it really easy to pick a setting that you fiddle with often and change it quickly. On the whole, the device is just incredibly usable. It's really simple and straightforward. But there's also an incredible amount of control for people who want to delve deeper and who want to be able to alter every single setting. It's priced at R5,500, which is pretty in line with its competitors, and quite a lot cheaper actually than some of Canon's really high-end compacts or Nikon's equivalents. Whether it's good value for money or not depends on your needs. If you need a camera that can do this sort of, allow for this sort of personalized control, then it's certainly worth considering. But if you're not opposed to the bulk, there is the argument that you could do just as well to buy a second-hand DSLR and a kit lens, which would provide very similar performance, albeit in a much bigger form factor. On the whole though, it's a great device, and it's the first time that Olympus have really tried to compete with this end of the market. Lately they've been making really compact, really entry-level cameras, and it's nice to see such a stalwart of the photographic world coming back with a device of this caliber.